Welcome, everybody, to the Hot Route, a special Turkey Day edition for Week 12 Thanksgiving slate. It is Wednesday morning, November 24th. Getting this out. Hopefully, you got plenty of time tonight, maybe commuting to in-laws or whatnot this evening and get a little 30, 40-minute show in you. Flirted with putting it out yesterday, but I want to try to get as much. I think it's more valuable. I know for us, being out Tuesday helps because more people may listen, but I do think the latest is best in this scenario. So we're going to go through the entire three-game slate, talking injury strategy, each game, and then at the end, kind of more of the metagame type stuff of things you may do or may want to do regardless of who you like, who you don't like. Can you be available to late swap? Late swap is critical in the three-game slate. If not, the showdown slates and stuff are actually pretty good. We'll talk about that just a little bit as well. Right now, through Cyber Monday at midnight, you can join us. Use the code TURKEY, get 30% off. It includes a free 7-day trial, risk-free trial. If you do not like us after 7 days, you can cancel and you will never see a charge. We've had a lot of people take advantage of this. It's a great time to do it this week with the full Turkey Day coverage, massive college football slates Friday and Saturday, and then we'll still have you covered for the main slate, which is a 10-game slate on Sunday, as well as the showstoppers for Sunday night and Monday Night Football into next week. So no golf right now, but we got plenty going on and enjoying a little bit of a break from golf. We get to watch Brooks Bryson on Friday, I guess, but I'm more into football when it comes to that. I'll have it on one of the screens, but that's not. I'll probably listen to Phil and Barkley. But with me, as always, Mr. Ryan Stevens. Ryan, how you doing today?
Doing great, man. I'm pumped. I love this time of year. Hosting Thanksgiving tomorrow. Got like 16 of us. It's going to be a fun time. Making some fun drinks. Going to watch football. Have a ton of lineups in there. It'll be awesome. How you doing?
Doing well. We are starting to come out of the. Seems like one of the family members has been sick or with COVID the last probably month, starting to get clear of all that and quarantines and stuff. So hopefully have everybody over as well tomorrow. A lot to work to do tonight as far as, like you said, getting things prepped and ready, and then be up early to start getting the final thoughts out for the big slate tomorrow, waiting on injury news and such. A little bit different of a slate as far as can be difficult when you have injury news, and I'll go through that in just a second, but also because the games all start massively different times, and the later the game with injuries, the more difficult it becomes. So really an advantage if you can be around to late swap, or at least we'll talk about 2v2s and stuff like that, especially in that late game with some of the injuries that are pending there. The more news we get, the better in the morning. We'll see. In general, because it's such a focused games, you get more reporters that are involved, and hopefully on the morning countdown shows we can get at least a good guess on these guys that go out later, who's going to have a potential play and who's not. Leave us a rate and review right now on iTunes when I do big draws like I did this week, and those winners will be announced at the end of the pod. That is the first thing I go to look at. We will have some big ones coming as we approach playoffs, college football, and then swing over to PGA and march to the Masters. Like and subscribe to us on YouTube. It goes a long way and it helps us. In the comment section, tell me your favorite wide receiver not named Diggs on the slate this week. I do weekly drawings as well, and getting in those comments certainly helps you. Right now on Underdog, you can use the code GUP. Click the link in the description. Get a free match, dollar for dollar, up to $100. They have daily pick'ems. You can mix and match sports, which will be great over the next few days. NBA, NFL, college football. Best balls will be back in May, so it's a good time to build your bankroll, and you can get up to 20x parlays on their pick'ems right now as well. And the code is GUP. Click the link in the description. Finally, the listener league for tomorrow is up already. I think we'll do a main slate one as well, but I definitely want to get the Turkey Day one filled. It's about half full right now. Click that link. You can get up to 3 entries in that as well. So we got 6 teams, obviously, tomorrow. All 6 teams coming off losses. It's probably been well documented. 72-point differential last Sunday. These 6 teams are 2-15-1 the last 3 games. So not really anybody coming in with huge momentum. We have 2 road favorites, but if you actually go back and look, I'm surprised at how many times the road dogs have covered on Thanksgiving. We have a main slate, a 2-game slate, and then a showdown for each game. So although the main slate is obviously the ideal and the biggest pots and the milli makers on that and all that. If you don't think you can be awake or around or disappear from the family or whatever for subs, especially tomorrow, the way this slate's shaking out, I probably wouldn't play it. I'd either do the 2-game later if you're doing stuff early, or pick a showdown. They're all pretty good. Obviously, the biggest is tomorrow night, the Bills Saints. That'll be the one where everybody chases their losses from the day. So I think it's like $250K pot up front. So good contest there as well. We'll have this covered. I'll have my rankings and ownership updated later on, and then again in the morning. And I will probably do an individual. I'll do a full showstoppers, which will be a 3-game preview, and then I'll do an individual report for the premium members for the Saints-Bills game as well. Key injuries we are watching, so if you hear us talk about it through the games, keep this in mind. Fields is doubtful, but Dalton has already been named the starter. Zeke was listed as a full participant today, but you could see his workload scaled back, although depending on what goes on with CeeDee Lamb, I think Pollard may be utilized in the passing game regardless. Kamara is questionable and probably a true game time decision. He's probably one of the biggest keys to the slate, but Ingram's also questionable as well. I don't know if that was more of a precautionary. He played all last game and actually did well. Tony Jones was reinstated from the IR 3 days ago, so we can keep that in mind. If either one or both of those guys is out, he'll get some reps. Damian Williams, unlikely to play. Lamb returned to practice today. Cowboys feel he'll clear the concussion protocol in time, but that's something to monitor. We will probably know that before lock of the first game, I would hope, whether he's cleared that or not. Cooper is out for sure. Mooney is questionable, but it appears he will play. Robinson is more doubtful than anything, so I would bank on him kind of being out. He's the first game, so that's nice. We'll know both those guys plenty of time in the morning. And Troutman is out for 4 to 6 weeks. Probably a boost to Jawan Johnson, although they'll rotate that some. But as far as receiving threat, I think he's probably the best one. We'll get Ryan's thoughts on that later. Like I said, 3 games, Central Times, 11:30, 3:30, and 7:20. So definitely spread out, which is good and bad. You get time to make your swaps and all that. But having those injuries is a big deal. We'll kick it off with the 11:30 game. Bears -3 at Lions. We have a 41-point total. Bears 22, Lions 19. Where are you at to start this game, Ryan?
This will be where the mega chalk of the day is. That's Montgomery for 6,000. And for good reason. I mean, he has owned the Lions. Their defense is just terrible. They should be able to run all over him. I was hoping that because it's only a 3-game slate that we'd see Zeke at like 85 or 9, and then Montgomery would get up around 8,000, something like that, just to make you have to make some harder decisions here. So Montgomery, I think if you're playing cash, which I will be, he's the first one in your lineup. And then you go from there. Even in tournaments, I mean, that's why this price kind of sucks, because it's hard to see him fail here. Obviously, he can. If you're the fade the chalk guy, you do not play Montgomery, because he will be the highest owned guy in the slate, and it should not even be close. So that's where you start. And then, being only a 3-game slate, kind of dove a little deeper into it. With Robinson expected out, Goodwin caught the long pass last week. He still has a good matchup on the outside. It's only 3,800. We try to be different in these slates and find a one-off guy. There's a few guys that are known as speedsters that are in the $3,000 to $4,000 range this week, that all they need really is that one play to kind of bust out. Goodwin fits that bill. In the slot here, they go against Parker for the Lions. He allows a top 10 passer rating against him. So it's been Bird. Bird's only 3,000. He split time in the slot with Mooney. Maybe he gets there, but I also like Komet too, 3,700 coming off a dud game. So maybe his ownership goes down a little, even with the depressed, salary here. But he still ran 26 routes to Graham's 7 last week. So I would project him to play out of the slot too, another 30% in that matchup that I liked. So I like Komet here for cheap.
Yeah, the strategy part is, if you get on your app right now, even if you're consider yourself sharp or, more than the average public, go build a lineup right now and you'll see how easy it is to build virtually anything you want with the key guys. So if you're in there in the Millie Maker or the, some of these big multi-thousand entry contest, it's just not going to do you much good. Think of last Sunday with the Cowboys and the Chiefs. Even if you hit right, the majority or the massive amount of people you're going up against, the combinations are so hard to get the one-offs right. It's very similar here, and I play the afternoon slot or slate a lot on NFL and have success. And I was winning the $15 100K up top with basically 4 or 5 minutes left in those games. And I like to, in those slates, a lot of times I factor in two things. One, where's the chalk pre-slate, and where are people who are chasing because they're dead likely going to go? And I try to pivot off of that kind of stuff when I'm building those afternoon slates on the Sunday. And I somewhat take that into these kind of slates, because if you start your lineup, Allen, Diggs, Montgomery, there's 70% of the people probably going to have that start. So if you do that, you really have to be willing to get different. And the hardest thing for most people is they're not willing to leave the money on the table. The instinctive person is going to spend up until they get to 49.9 or 50,000. So the first and foremost thing I would say if you're doing MME is if you just start with leaving money on the table, especially when you factor in the guys that are highly priced that aren't going to play at all. Let's say a Kamara doesn't play, maybe a Lamb doesn't play. Cooper's, was priced into the slate. It instinctively makes try to think of the cap instead of being 50,000, probably closer to like 49.4, 49.5, because those guys aren't even on the field. And that naturally means everybody on the slate is now underpriced. And so if you get through that mentality block, instead of having to think through everything you do, you can build as you like, and you naturally will be different than most other people. So just put a cap on it in that way. That's the easiest way for me to tell people to do it. And then as we go through this slate, the other important deal is going to be able to not only have your latest guys and the flex and all that goes without saying, but make sure your 2v2s are set up and you know what you're doing, especially if you're doing 1 to 3 max. Like if you're going to have Kamara and Diggs or whatever, be prepared to who are you going to pivot off of. And if you say Ingram and Sanders, well, you're going to pivot the same way everybody else is. So you got to kind of think through those scenarios and get through them. I do like the Montgomery call. Do you think we see any? I mean, Herbert did so well. Is it just like, man, it's Montgomery's show? He's 4,500. I don't think many people are going to use him. But again, we're talking about finding that who was it? Who was the running back for the Lions forever ago that got like 4 touchdowns on Thanksgiving, but only had it was like 5 carries and 3 touchdowns or something crazy.
Well, last year was all about the Lions. It was Peterson and Carry on
because Swift was out.
Yeah, so and both running backs hit. Like some of the winning lineups had both backs. So, yeah, I mean, I think it's kind of weird because I thought he played really well too, but Montgomery's also very good. And he was just dead last week. I mean, Montgomery played 95% of the snaps, played the most snaps of any running back in the league. So I don't see that changing here when he should just be able to, trash these Lions just like he did last time, the time before that. It's just what they do.
What potentially changes with one thing I think could change, but it's unlikely to happen now, is with Dalton. I think it would boost Robinson some, but it looks like Robinson's going to be out. Does Mooney just continue being the best option? It obviously looks that way. Detroit should know that, but they don't have a very good secondary. I almost would wish Robinson would play because I think it would make it a spot to get on, especially if it happens late because most people aren't going to be paying attention. But does Dalton versus Fields boost that passing offense? I think it boosts Montgomery some because he will check down better and probably get more touches. This game in general historically isn't highly owned because most people like to A, leave as much options open, and then B, traditionally the Cowboys game is always a little bit, well, every game is normally better than the Lions game, but you got a pretty high profile team in the last game with good offensive options. If you're doing an MME, is it stupid to take 10% of your lineups and just stack this game with maybe not the full lineup, but a majority of this field to see if you can hit off some one-offs, or do you just continue to one-off this game?
Yeah, I was going to mention that too. Like, speaking about being different on this slate, like this game has the lowest total, not even on the Thanksgiving, but on the week. I mean, This is a low, I don't even know if it's at 40 points right now.
Yep.
So that will also drive the ownership in this game way down. Outside of Montgomery being the obvious play.
Correct.
But I agree. I like Dalton passing to guys like I think it helps Kmet out. And I think Mooney's just in a good role now. He's kind of turned into the number one, especially with Robinson gone. So if Robinson, when he was in his heyday, if he was 5,700, we'd be all over it. I think Mooney can be right there with that. So 5,700, I don't mind at all for him. But the other thing about this too is I think these two defenses will be the highest owned defenses on the day. Bears are 3,000, Lions are like 2,400. So if this game does score pretty well, you're going to get the low ownership on the players and kill everyone playing their defense. So there's kind of like a mini correlation there if it can actually hit. And I do think I only talked about the Bears earlier. The Lions, I like them a lot more if Goff's going to play. And Reynolds isn't exactly sneaky at 3,000, but there is that connection there of him knowing him, with the Rams. And, maybe there's some sort of connection there. And the outside receivers for the Lions, and I talked about a good matchup for the Bears in the slot. The outside wide receivers on the Lions will go against Vildor, who he allows the number one QB rating when thrown against in the league. So he's terrible. So these guys on the outside for the Lions have a great matchup if Goff can have time to throw.
Yeah, Reynolds is one that I've got kind of circled as a good off the wall sleeper, $3,000. If Goff's in, and the latest update we got is it looks actually more promising than it did, that he'll probably start and play. Once again, it's good this is the first game because that's something we will know before everything locks. I would tonight what I try to do is get all the pools basically built where I feel the most confident in how the injuries will shake out, and then just be prepared to move off of there. I don't really want to be building all my pools and everything in the morning. This game starts sooner than most people realize. You get, the wife calling, kids screaming, turkey needs to come. I mean, you got all this going on. You don't want to get stuck with the last minute news and have to try to figure it out. If you're doing MMA, which I will be doing, 1 to 3 max stuff, I definitely think getting some pieces of that. If you take a risk, if you do a 3 max and you take a risk on one of these quarterbacks, I think it could be massive leverage. Because if you take that risk on Dalton or Goff, whoever you think could potentially have the bigger game, and it hits at 4%, 5%, whatever the ownership's going to be, now you can pivot later even into chalk if you want, because you've already secured a 24-point day from whoever hit, had a way bigger day than everybody thought they would have. You can actually get on some chalk now because the guys that are on the chalk also have Allen or whatever, or something like that, and they still got to figure out what they're going to do. So definitely worth taking a look at. You pretty much know all the people. The defenses are going to be popular. That is 100% right. I think the Bills could be, just the way the Saints have been playing. They are the most expensive though, and most people just don't like to pay up. But the Cowboys is the most expensive. I'm sorry. But I have the Bears ranked as a number one ownership and number one points. And, so they're definitely going to be popular, probably an easy spot to fade that because defenses are so unpredictable. I hadn't checked yet. That's probably one thing I messed on was weather concerns. Obviously, it's outdoors in Detroit. Or no, it's indoor in Detroit, so they don't have to worry about that one. Dallas is indoors and New Orleans, so we don't have to worry about that. One tight end. Weather. Yeah, Jimmy Graham, like you said, only 7. Is there a chance he could sneak in a touchdown? I probably lean going like a Foster Moreau or Juwan Johnson over him, but that's the one-off. You take a risk in a big, large MME field, and if he gets 3 catches, 20 yards, and a touchdown for $2,800, he's worth it. Although I agree with you that Kmet, is probably the better play there at tight end. And Hawkinson, do you think people pay up for him? I mean, if Goff's in and back and healthy, if they're going to be successful, I would think Hawkinson and Reynolds are 2 guys that could do well.
Yeah, it's hard to see that when you have, Waller and Schultz right above them, and they're both in, a good matchup in the game people want to target. Goff Hawkinson didn't have a great game against the Bears the first time, but he did have 8 targets. But Goff threw for 300 yards in that game, for 299 and 2 TDs. I mean, you definitely take that for 5,100 on this slate when you could pay up for some other nice things. That's the thing, like looking for realistic ceilings on this slate. There's only a few guys at the skilled positions that have like this guy can score 30 DraftKings points. It's hard here. So I like Goff. I mean, in a 3-game slate, if he's going to play and be healthy, I don't know. If you're just looking for a low-owned quarterback, I think I'd lean that way over Dalton for the simple fact that I think the volume will be more. He's $400 less, and I think they're going to throw more because I think the Bears run, most in the league or top 5, and then they're going to be able to run on the Lions. So they don't really need to go out there and just air it out. Whereas if the Lions get behind, that's what they're going to do. And then the two speedsters, like I was mentioning speedsters, Raymond would be the guy on the Lions. He runs like a 4.3 40. If you're just looking for a big play, I think he scored twice against the Bears last time. He caught both touchdown passes from Goff. So I don't know. He does have a big advantage. The Bears corners are not fast at all, so he can roast them.
Yeah, and in that game, the leading wide receiver isn't even active this week, which is Cephas. So you could see, Cephas had 5 targets, 4 catches, 83 yards. That's probably a role you could see Reynolds taking. And then, like you said, Raymond had 3 catches, 46 yards, and 2 touchdowns. And Hawkinson, 4 for 42 and 8 targets. He gets 1 touchdown there, and that's a 14-point day. Certainly viable in that scenario as well. Mooney was, this is when Robinson was still playing, and Fields was the quarterback, and Mooney had 5 for 125 on 7 targets. So, he can get open against this D. There is a way for and this game only scored 38 points last time they played. So I'm not coming in here and saying this is going to be, a shootout, but 1 to 3 max, maybe you're a little more cautious because there's some openings later in the day. MME, I certainly don't mind getting some good pieces of this game and taking some chances and then see what happens in this game and be able to move off later on if need be. Cowboys steaming up to -9 versus the Raiders. This is a 3:30 kick. For all intents and purposes, the Bears game will be over with enough time to know your results, see how you're doing, able to make moves, see what injury updates we get. 51 over-under, the highest over-under on the slate. This game opened at 6.5, 7, and now is 8.5, 9. A lot of people loving the Cowboys, which kind of surprised me after the pitiful performance last week. But when you break it down and you're without your best left tackle, 2 of your best defenders, your 2 best wide receivers, 1 for half the game I get, on the road in Arrowhead, that's a little bit different environment than what they'll see today. Why is everybody so down on the Raiders? Like, they were, after the release, it was like steam high, and then everybody, they've had some tough losses, but is it, God, I can't lay the 9 with Dallas. I don't even know if I'll touch it, but I don't know if I can take the Raiders, but are you off the Raiders? They're going to have trouble stopping the pass rush for Dallas, and I get that. In the running game, he's not been great, Jacobs, and he's not really the type of runner. I could actually see Kenyon Drake having, as good of a point total game as Jacobs. Is there anything here other than Waller that gets you excited, or is this load up on Dallas? Is people going to load up on Dallas after that? What everybody watched on the biggest game of the slate last week?
Yeah, I don't know. I kind of like the slot guys here for the Raiders a little more. Like, that'll be Renfro most of the time, and then Waller also plays there. So yeah, Edwards completely disappeared last week, so hard to go back there. I guess he could catch a long one, but he wasn't even – I don't think he was targeted. And then Zay Jones out of nowhere, for $3,000 this week, he was running the second most routes in the team. That only equated to 1 catch. It's just the offense is kind of weird right now. Carr is much better than how they're looking right now. So I think there is potential for this game to score a little bit. But like you said, 9 points, I don't know. What the Raiders do is they kind of shut down wide receivers pretty well, but you can run on them. So if the Cowboys pick up on that, I think your left tackle's back this week, if I read correctly.
Smith. Yep.
Yeah, Tyron's back, I think. So they're at least expecting him back as of right now. I'll probably test it pregame, but I think he's going to play. I think that helps everyone, including Elliott. And after the offense struggled a little bit last week, I don't know if they might, come out at home favorites, healthy offensive line, just start pounding the ball a little bit more. And that could help keep the game a little closer so the Raiders, would have a better chance at covering. I don't know. This game's a weird one because of that total and home favorite that Prescott is. I'd normally say, yeah, I want to fire this up. But then you look at what these receivers are doing against the Raiders, and it's hard to really click any of them. Then you have Lamb's, he's still questionable. If he plays, he's obviously my favorite, but I don't know. If he plays, he's not going to be limited. There's a concussion. So they either say you're good to go, he's out there running full speed, doing what he needs to do. 6,900 is a nice price for that. And then I would boot Noah Brown right out of any consideration at all for a punt or anything. And then Wilson, I think, is in play no matter what, 3,500, but he's going to be the mega chalk here as well, like Montgomery, where people are saving the money. So I think you need to find, if you're in big tournaments, I think pivoting off Wilson is a good play because the Raiders have shut down slot receivers all year. Hobbs is nasty in the slot.
Right, and if you go back and look at recent Raiders, I mean, I think people think the Raiders got destroyed by the Bengals, but that game's 13-6, I think, going into the fourth. And Carr just had a bad fourth. I think Burrow threw for 180 yards or something like that, to your point. I mean, they're taking, Mixon ran all over them. You go back to the Chiefs game, and the leading wide receiver, or the leading catcher by far, was Kelsey and Darrell Williams. So tight end running back out of the backfield. Yeah, Hill still got 2 touchdowns, but he still only had 83 yards. Not to say, a CD Lamb or something like that can't do well. It certainly looks like Schultz would be a great play in this situation. I think Zeke and Pollard. I think Pollard is a lock for me in MME stuff to get him what is he? He's $5,600. I don't think most people want to pay that, especially both of them. $13,600 for 2. I don't know if I put them together. I may make a rule there, but if Lamb is out, I don't care if they're together because I think they will utilize Pollard as a Patterson type for Atlanta, right? That he's going to catch balls, help him in the passing game, especially because the way they can utilize him with Zeke on the field, set up some play action, hit Pollard in the screen, stuff like that. They'll be more prepared for that. If Lamb is in, I do like Lamb. I think he can because he's, he can get open in many different ways, and Dak, does throw him the ball a lot, and did last week even in a short time. And he's a touchdown magnet. So, the price.
Yeah, they run routes where coverage doesn't matter. They run timing routes, things like that. I mean, he can. Right. He's matchup proof in my eyes.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not calling him Tyreek Hill, but he definitely is more like Hill than just a straight fly guy. He's not going to run a deep route all the day. He's going to get open. They're going to get him the ball. And I like seeing that he played today. I think Gallup. Does Gallup become less chalky if Lamb is in, even though he's still the 2, and people just go, I'll just drop down to Wilson?
Yeah, I think the chalk then becomes Lamb and Wilson. And then so, I kind of do like the guys then in the middle. You mentioned Schultz. I'm always a Schultz guy. You talk about these teams where the corners shut down guys, and that brings me directly to, like you said, Elliott, Pollard, Schultz. Like, who's going to benefit from that, seeing those targets? So I really like that. And Dak has been top 3 under pressure all year. Raiders are mid-pack in pressure, but if they do get in there, I like Dak in games like this. And it's a good bounce-back spot. If his ownership's going to be down at all because of last week on a 3-game slate, and he's only 6,900, I mean, I do like that a lot.
Yeah, I got to think, everybody knows Allen's going to be the highest-owned quarterback to start the day. Now, you will see people, as the day moves along, and depending on how their lineups look, by the time we get to the night, people may be pivoting off. They may have, an Allen Kamara lineup, and if Kamara is out, they're going to go to a cheap running back, go to Simeon, pay up for Diggs. I mean, you can see all kinds of crazy stuff. So it's very difficult to put ownership out there because I try, and I still do it, but I try to caution people like on this day, things will change. It's more about the strategy and reacting to what's happened versus, this guy's going to be 17%. He may be, and if all 3 of these games started at the same time, yes, I could give you a pretty good ownership, but that's not how it'll roll as thing goes on. Because if Lamb's out, well, that opens up a lot of money for people because they're going to drop down. They're going to have Gallup or Wilson or even Noah Brown and be able to afford an Allen and Diggs or whatever. And now that could boost their ownership because, they don't have to pay up for Lamb no more like they were going to. A lot of things can happen there. So I wouldn't be all in on ownership. I'd be more about how does my complete lineup look and what's that story tell me? For instance, if you do think Dallas is going to run the ball a lot, which they should be able to run it. Does that give you a lower ceiling with Prescott? Probably does. But he could wind up for, 250 yards and 3 touchdowns. And like you said, the biggest deal to think about, it's a 3-game slate. So total points, raw points are premium here. It's not really about, did I get 3x my value or anything like that. Especially, it's kind of like a showdown, but like afternoon slate on Sunday, I don't really care about my value return. It's normally a, 3 or 4 game slate, and the total points is going to dwarf all that. It doesn't matter. I mean, my lineup that was up there, I went double tied in with Waller and Ertz, and I left tons of money on the table. I didn't care about, paying down for a cheap tight end on a 3-game slate to say I got, you got, 8 points. I got 4X's money. That's irrelevant in this. I need total points. And Dak could be there right there with a Josh Allen. We'll get to that game in a minute. But any sneaky plays on the Raiders side? I mean, it seems like it's, Carr, obviously, Jacobs. I don't mind Drake, especially in the MME pool, but the pass really seems to be Renfro and Waller. I mean, is there anything that we like there outside of there? Like you mentioned, Zay Jones ran some. Jackson would be that dude you're talking about that can get one big catch for a touchdown. We know Diggs likes to bite on stuff like that, on trying to get the interception. It could get burnt. Wouldn't shock me to see him with 2 catches, 82 yards, and a touchdown, at $3,100.
Yeah, I mean, that'd be probably the only place I'd go. I'd rather probably look at something like that instead of Zay Jones, Zay Jones out there running routes, but he's never targeted, so it doesn't really matter. And then, I think like Edwards just maybe he's fallen out of favor. I don't know. He came off a good game and then just wasn't used at all. But the whole offense kind of sucked, so it's hard to get a good gauge from that one. That's such a small sample size last week looking at that rotation they were running, but I don't know. I like Waller and Renfro is where I'm going to go. And I do like Renfro to kind of bounce back and have a better game here than last week. And then I guess like the sneaky one that would piss everyone off would be Jacobs. Like, somehow the game script plays out where they're, down near the goal line and he's going to be the one getting those carries. So he punches 2 TDs or something stupid like that. And then that could be where it's like a big pivot off of Ingram or someone like that around the same price. And if he beats Ingram, then I know I'm going to have a bad day. So, I don't really want to go there, but 5,900 he's starting running back on a 3-game slate. Yeah,
and Moreau will be. Some people try to get to him. He got the touchdown last week. He's kind of like a Parham over at the Chargers. He seems to be viable in the red zone, but not really used elsewhere. The biggest mistake I see a lot when you start looking at whether you're talking about a Sunday slate or this Thanksgiving slate is I think people start to get one way or the other. They get super chalky and it's hard to be different, or they start getting cute, but they do it in like 3 spots. And I'm like, you don't have to do that on this slate. Like, you don't have to go Zay Jones, Foster Moreau, Zach Moss, get all these Jamal Williams. I look at the lineup, I'm like, well, the odds of all those guys being the it today is not very likely. It's okay just to pick 1, maybe 2 spots to be different, as opposed to trying to get cute all across the board. You just don't have to do that. It doesn't take much to get different. And this is a game that I'll be interested because I definitely don't know how many people go to it. The public, I would say it's the highest scoring game. You got the big home favorite. They're going to try to load up on the Cowboys. But I also think the Bills are going to be one of the biggest total team ownerships on the slate. So obviously premium members, we'll have you all updated later on tonight. And then again in the morning, I'll be working on that. Any final thoughts for this game before we go to the night slate?
No, I think we covered a good portion of it. I think just like in conclusion there, I guess I like Schultz the best on the Cowboys and the running backs. But like you said, I mean, I kind of want to see too. It's hard without the Lamb news. I love Lamb for 6,900, but if we're trying to stay away from these corners, which, that seems wise, and we're on a pretty large sample size of that right now, then I like Schultz and the running backs, I think, the best here for the Cowboys.
Yeah, if Lamb is out, I'm not as high on the wide receivers for Dallas because I watched the game film Monday morning. Those guys struggle to create separation when they're up against the best Ds. When Gallup's a third wide receiver, he doesn't struggle as bad. But when you say, hey, you're the number 1 now, none of these guys could really get open. And I'm not giving Dak a pass because Dak made some horrible throws in that second half as well. But there were times that these guys just couldn't get the separation that CD can get. Now, I don't care. Like you said, he's matchup proof to me as far as on a slate like this. I'm loading up on CD if he's in there. I don't care. It doesn't mean if CD's out, okay, now I'm going to load up on Gallup, because I don't think Gallup, I know the Gallup's not as good as him, but that separation part, it makes me start liking Schultz even more, Zeke even more, some Pollard, and then just to take a bit of a piece there. And this is a perfect scenario. I wouldn't be afraid to run the double tight end in a lineup with Schultz and Waller, because not many people want to do that. And I've won some good takedowns before having double tight ends. Doesn't mean you have to do it all the time, and I'd be cautious of how much you do it. But I think this would be a slate that having a double tight end when you got Waller, Schultz, Hawkinson, and then you potentially, Knox can easily have it. He's getting back into the thing after the injury, and then Juwan Johnson now opens up with Troutman out. So, definitely a decent tight end slate by all means. Last game, 720, Bills minus 6.5 at Saints, 45.5 team total. That's Bills 25.75, Saints 19.75. It's probably the third week now. I keep telling you, I haven't had any Saints at all. But I still don't know that they've gained what they are. They paid Taysom again for whatever reason. All indications are Simeon's still going to start. I don't trust that he plays, that Taysom doesn't get in there a decent amount, whatever way, shape, or form. They can't keep doing what they're doing. It's just not working all the way. Now, we saw what Buffalo can be done, but Buffalo, had some injuries, the defensive line and linebacker. I like Ingram. I know you're going to go there, and you probably like him. Or Kamara, whoever winds up playing. I think Kamara is more likely to be out than play if I was if I was handicapping it now. So I like Ingram, and I would like Tony Jones. If Kamara's out, Jones could get some touches for sure, and we saw his potential because I'd like to use two running backs. Are you high on Simeon at all here, or do you just take the pieces of the offense you like, and then the chalk of the day is going to be Diggs, Allen, and I even think Beasley could get garnished, at his price, a pretty decent amount of ownership as well.
Yeah, I'm hoping that's not the case because I love Cole Beasley here. He's like, when me and Tambo used to talk on these 3-game slates, and we called him Cole Threesley because he just dominates on these 3-man slates. It's like he just awakens and gets 8 to 10 catches every time there's a short slate like this and dominates. So he's I got a soft spot for Beasley on these type of slates, and he's only 4,500.
The only reason why I think that helps his ownership is that Sanders isn't really priced up very high. So I think some people will go, well, I'll just take Sanders in that scenario because he's the number 2, right?
Yeah, he's got no questionable next to his name, but what I like is Beasley's trending in the right direction. So he did 10% of the snaps one week, then he's back over 50 the next week, and now we're here. He's still got the red jersey on at practice. No one can touch him. He's just relaxing. I think we could see him up playing over 70% of the snaps, and I love him in this spot here. I like Allen. I mean, that's an obvious thing to say, but when you're going to project out, any. Like you said, a 3-game slate, so these raw points. If you're talking about a ceiling for any quarterback on this slate, I mean, he's like him and Dak are the only ones that you could realistically project a 30-plus point ceiling for. So he's super chalk, but for a good reason.
I think, maybe Diggs, but
Diggs too, yeah.
He's a more risk, boom bust there to get 30, but he can get 30.
Yeah. Yep, yeah, exactly. So if you're going to project that ceiling out, you got to project it for him because he has done it. Where these other guys, they really have not, because it's just kind of a weak overall slate. Like you look at these receivers, you're talking, just look on the other side of the ball. We're talking Callaway, Traquan Smith, Deontay Harris. It's just kind of a weird slate with just so little studs, if you want to call them that. So I don't know. I love Beasley. I love Sanders and Diggs too on the outside because Lattimore has just been getting roasted all year. He's top 10, QB rating allowed against as well. He's not that good. I know he gets tucked up quite a bit, some places. I don't like Lattimore. I think you can beat him easily. The problem with the Bills, and I saw this today from Football Outsiders, they're the number 1 inconsistent team that they've ever tracked. So it's like you and I were talking about that with, your betting and stuff like that. Like it's hard to know which Bills team is going to show up. It's like Josh Allen's either there and he's an MVP candidate, or he's there and he is ruining the game for him. So it's tough to tell. You know, I still like him because on this type of slate, you gotta like that ceiling. But I think you can be different by going other places like Beasley. I'm hoping his ownership isn't as high as we think, and that would be nice. And then Knox here saw all the targets last week. I think he might get steamed up a little bit. I don't mind him. That's a way to be different. He's only 4,400, but I just like the real, Beasley and Diggs when he's in the slot and things like that a lot more.
Yeah, Knox is one I have written down as a potential like for me. I think he'll be less owned than some of the other big names. He was out for 3 straight weeks, week 7, 8, 9, limited in week 10. So really his first full game back was last week, and he gets 6 for 80. So I don't mind him at all. I think he can get involved with Allen, fairly cheap, $4,400. And I agree. I mean, I think, is there, I don't even think I have. Well, I do have Isaiah McKenzie, but I like the other 3 and 3,100 guys. The Reynolds, the Deshaun Jackson over him. So I mean, I think it's pretty concentrated where most people go in this game. Does anybody touch either one of these running backs? I don't really have a great feeling for either one of them, and I think there's much better plays, but because of that, they're going to be fairly low owned.
I'd actually go Breida over both guys. So Breida's 4,800. He just looks way better. I mean, he's getting more. He just, when you watch the game, and you can, and the stats show it too, he's just a better runner right now than these two guys. And they run like more explosive plays with him too. So maybe that helps that out. But they're like designing things for him to get into the offense. So that kind of kills the value for the other two guys. But one of these 3 could, punch one in the end zone, score over 10 fantasy points. It's hard to tell who. The ownership will be way down on all 3. And on the other side of the ball, I think it's going to be Ingram that starts. He'll be, very chalky. And that one to me is like Montgomery too. I don't really understand the price unless they thought Kamara was going to play. Because Ingram's looked really good in that starting role. But yeah, I think if I had to choose, if you gun to my head, I'd pick Breida right now. 4,800 would be my favorite running back on the Bills.
Yeah, and anytime you got a 3 running back potential with a team that really doesn't like to run the ball, even when they're up. I mean, if they run, more times is with Josh Allen versus, they enjoy throwing it. I mean, they just do. And I guess the biggest part for me is can the Saints muster up enough and the Saints D isn't horrible. They've had obviously good and bad games, and at home in that dome at night, everybody's going to be a little liquored up from all day Thanksgiving, that kind of stuff. Yeah. I don't like that as much as, we know last week I love the Colts. It was my number 1 play of the week. I locked it as my super lock in all 3 of my entries. I didn't think it was going to be like that. I'm not going to act like I knew that, but I did think they had a legit chance to potentially win, but I love the 7.5. But I think the Saints D can hold their own and get some pressure on Allen. But I think if you're going in this game, the biggest deal for me is, maybe you make a rule when you're building, either in the Grimace or whatever, if you have Allen, Diggs or some form of that, make sure the rest of your lineup is either save money on it, have, 1 or 2 offs, because they're going to be the highest combo. I think Dak and Lamb could wind up pressing it a little bit if Lamb get put healthy. But I think without question, in my mind, because there's so much value on the slate, Diggs is easy to play. You can put anybody with him, and I don't, you can go Allen and Diggs all day. And so maybe you go Dak and Lamb, and that's the second most popular. But, if they go off, now you can jump on, a chalky Ingram in the last game if you have a running back slot or something like that saved, versus having to hope Allen and Diggs both go off. I definitely would play Allen more than Diggs because Diggs has had some big games. We've seen it, but he has spread the ball around more than ever before. And we saw that even last year with Sanders being there. Beasley's coming along. Knox is now back and healthy. They got 3 running backs. They'll hit him out of the backfield some. Not to say Diggs is a bad play by any means. I just think that's a case. As it goes to defenses, where are you looking I'll ask cash because everybody wants your cash opinion, but and then tournament, factoring in some ownership. Because there's only 6. This isn't a day you want to get too cute here. But where are you thinking on D's?
For D's, for cash, would be Bears or Lions. Depending on what I can fit in. I haven't really built it out yet, but lock in Montgomery, Allen, Bears or Lions D, whatever's going to fit better. And then and Ingram as well. So I guess I'll give that out now, but I'll write an article for it either later today or first thing tomorrow morning and just and post it on the site for everyone. But yeah, I think you got to play Allen, Montgomery, Ingram, and either Bears or Lions D and start there. And then I'll decide if I want to go up to Diggs or not, depending on who else is available and what else can fit in there. But a lot of this value scares me. Like heading into the week, Wilson 3,500. I mean, normally I would think, yeah, okay, but he's just in a terrible matchup. So if no other great value, becomes available here, maybe I'll have to jam him in cash. But I'm not sure if I really like how safe that is right now.
If you're a cash builder. And I don't play a lot of cash, so that's why I defer to you. But and you like Montgomery, right? But we don't know on Kamara by the first game. Or let's say we don't even know by the time because if you know before the Dallas game, you can make some changes. I guess my deal would be: if Kamara is active, what do you do? Because you got an $1,800 gap there, and I said Montgomery, I meant Ingram. You got a $1,600 gap there. You can't really. Do you have a 2v2 ready for that last game? If you go, all right, I'm going Ingram, Diggs.
It'd be probably Diggs. Yeah, it'd be probably coming off Diggs into a cheaper Bills receiver.
And if Kamara's active, is he a cash running back with you? Do you move up to him automatically?
Yeah. If they say he's a go, then he'll pretty much be locked in.
Okay, yeah, because MME wise, it's not as you're not worried about floors and all that like you are in cash. So, I'll just pivot to where I can. But in cash, I was wondering, okay, if you still got to be cognizant of your cash lineup and make sure you have you don't want your only piece on your cash lineup to just be Ingram in that final game because you'd be hurt. I mean, you wouldn't be able to unless you left $1,600 in your cash lineup to move up. And he's your only piece, you'd only be able to go down to one of these Buffalo running backs. So be very cautious of that, and especially a cash lineup. But you don't want him to be your only piece in the cash lineup from that last game because you have nowhere to move, assuming we don't know Kamara until after the Dallas game locks.
No, yeah, thanks for bringing that up because that's probably exactly what it'll be. It'll just be a 2v2 within that same game. So you have the high-priced running back and a low-priced, Bills receiver. Or if he's out, then you just swap to the low price running back and get up to Diggs. So that'll be something I have to look at too. And I'll put that all in the article for everybody. One guy too that I'm struggling with, I want to get your opinion on is Juwan Johnson for the Saints because he's 2,600. I think that I like him more than most people. I just think, he's had a decent role this whole year, even though some weeks he's been in like a healthy scratch. In the weeks he's played, he's seen targets. He's seen targets in the end zone quite a bit too, which I really like. And so for $2,600, I mean, a lot of people are going to punt these $3,000 receivers, $3,500 receivers. Once Simeon came in, I wrote about it last week with Troutman. We talked about it. Right. Simeon's targeting these tight ends all the time. I mean, Troutman sucked all year. Simeon goes in there, all of a sudden he's, top 10 tight end, PPR wise. So Johnson, 2,600 playing that same position. In a game where they could be from behind, or if this game does shoot out a little bit, I really like Johnson for 2,600, and I'd even consider him in cash because I just think he's locked into an elite role here for tight end when you only have, a 3-game slate like this and 6 main tight ends to choose from.
No, I like him. He's one of the guys I have already written as far as and because of that and the other ones on there, like my MME builds, in the Green Machine, you can stop tight ends from being in the flex or not by clicking the button that we have available for you. Like I'll have probably more than most 2 tight end builds, because it's only 6 teams. There's only 3 games. And so I'm not really worried about that 2 tight end deal because three of these tight ends could wind up being top 10 scorers on the whole slate, and it wouldn't shock me, at all. Waller, Schultz, even Hawkinson could wind up with a touchdown or two. Like you said, Johnson's a guy I like once they ruled out Troutman. You can go back to the Titans game, and, Simeon threw for almost 300 yards and 2 touchdowns. Those two combined, Johnson and Troutman. So this is when Troutman was there. It was 7 catches, almost 80 yards, no touchdown, but you can always get into that. So I agree with that 100%. I guess a little concerned, what are they doing with Taysom? I don't want it to turn into a, wildcat type game where all they're doing is trying to run on Buffalo, especially after they saw Taylor and Simeon doesn't play as much. Like, I probably won't have much Simeon because of that, but it doesn't hurt me from playing at Johnson, especially like you said, $2,600. Your risk reward there on this type of slate isn't much. And you're right.
So last week there was guys who won, like, I'm seeing these screenshots, 50K, 100K, and they had Bates at their flex, from Washington. He was 2,500, but it allowed the rest of the lineup to grab the ceilings of everybody else. So you didn't even need, they was basically punted a 0 off in one tournament. So, like, I don't think he gets a 0 here.
Right. And that was where I was going next, as a strategy wrap up is, in general, these 3 games are, and all we can go by is projections, and Vegas, Vegas is pretty good at what they do, are very low scoring. 5 of the 6 teams are projected 25 points or less, with Dallas being the only team at 30. If that holds true, and the odds of it, it's probably unlikely. Someone will probably bust out a little bit, have a 40 burger somewhere, but it puts emphasis on what you just said, because that's what we saw last Sunday. The big games that were supposed to go off didn't go off. I was a complete fan of Josh Allen, which I normally am, although this week I actually like him. He's burnt people 2 of the last 3 weeks pretty good. He's a dud. The entire Cowboys Chiefs game was a dud. I was all over Taylor. I wrote him up in the nucleus and all that stuff. Loved him. I didn't play enough of him, even myself, as much as I liked him, because there's still some hesitancy. But those raw total points are extremely important. And also, like you just said, a punt may not kill you if it doesn't get there, if he's super cheap, because it lets you get more raw points in your lineup. If he goes off, great. Especially in you're in these $100, $200 single entry that only have 800 total entries, stuff like that. A punt is perfectly fine, even if if it allows you to stack some of these guys. Because if you go Allen, Diggs, Waller, Juwan Johnson, I promise you, in some contests like that, not many people are going double tight end, especially with a Juwan Johnson on this slate. And that $2,600 saves your lineup opening, and you can get a little chalky or whatever and be different in these 1,000 entry, 800 entry stuff. Even in the Millie Maker is fine, as long as your total dollar amount for that lineup is fine. It's just a way to be different, and it doesn't really kill you with some good upside as well.
Yeah, a lot of people do that. So it's like you build the lineup and say you did the Waller, Juwan Johnson thing. Waller gives you a realistic ceiling of 25 points, say. So Juwan can have a 0, and they got 25 out of those 2 positions. A lot of people would take those 2 out and then just automatically put 2 guys that are $4,000 in there, just because maybe they have a better projection elsewhere or whatever. But those guys can easily combine for 14 points. So it's like there's no reason to do that. On a slate like this, I think you have to chase those ceilings, and they're going to, like you said, one of these games is going to bust out. If you get a couple things right, I mean, you get a couple of those ceiling games, you're way ahead of these other people punting off these other plays that you don't necessarily need to do. Someone that's as cheap as $2,600 on a slate like this is huge.
Yeah, and you see it a lot. And even in golf, you see a lot of people just get chalk, can't play the chalk. And we've just seen it in the last 18 months in DFS in general. There's so much content and so much resources that chalk isn't always bad. You just have to find your subtle ways to get a little different, because these people are popular for a reason. It doesn't mean, okay, I can't play, especially in a condensed slate like this. I'm not going to say I don't want to play Allen, because I probably will, especially in MME mode. Whereas a 10, 12 game slate, I'll take my chances on some of that stuff because there's plenty of options out there. But here I'm like you said, you're talking about raw points. It's very hard for me to see Allen or Prescott not being up there, but it doesn't mean on a few lineups I won't go in there and go take a Goff who's going to be $5,100, and you could still get on the chalk after that. You can still have Diggs, you can still have Beasley, and just hope that Allen's concentration of that game is to the pieces you have. And if Goff gets you 21 and you've saved $2,700, but you still get your Diggs or Sanders, Diggs, Knox, whoever you want to go with, odds are the person that's playing Allen, where are they going to go get the 21 points for $5,100? And so when you start thinking like that, it opens up your builds a little bit and allows you a little bit of difference. Two things, then we'll wrap it up. One, Monkey Knife Fight. There's a link in the description. Same deal. You get dollar for dollar match up to $100. My play for tomorrow is a 3.6x. I like Diggs over 80.5 yards and Montgomery over 77.5 yards. You can go lock that in now. Showdown wise, all of the stuff pretty much applies here. You can be even a little more unique in some of those builds. If you're familiar with all the stuff I put out there, that's a mentality we need to look for when it comes to captains, things like that. Don't be afraid to leave money on the table. I'll have because the pot for the Bills Saints showdown is so big. Again, it's a lot. The reason why they do that is because everybody's, they're either alive going into it and feeling good, or they're dead, so they're gonna go chase it in the Sunday night game. Just like on Sundays. So I'll write up a showdown for that game alone. Try to do it late. I don't know exactly when we're doing our food and all that, but I'm going to try to do it as late as possible because I want to get the Kamara news and all that. If we get it early, then I'll put it out. Obviously, I got to be around the family and all that, so I'll try to time all that. So if you're a premium member, I will have that up. I'm going to do a showstoppers format. I did it last year. Which will break down my thoughts for the 3-game slate, where I'm at. Try to do as late as possible because I want to get all the news. Then I'll do an update right before, basically when inactives are announced for the first game, which will be 10 o'clock my time, so 11 o'clock Eastern, and then we'll wrap it up from there. Any final thoughts from you? I think, strategy-wise, game-wise, probably the biggest concerns that we're waiting for, I would think, unless something unusual happens, would be Kamara and Lamb. I think Ingram plays. That's probably more of a rest situation. Zeke, I think, is fine. We know Dalton's starting. Goff, it looks like he's going to play, but I'm not worried about the first game because we'll have all that, plenty of time to make changes. Outside of the first game, I really think we're just waiting on the Lamb news and Kamara. Am I missing anything else? No?
No, that sounds good. I guess my one final thought would be I don't mind the Bears-Lions game as much as like Vegas does. That total is so low. I don't know. It's hard for me to think that game can't go over. I think matchups are good all over the field here. I know the offenses struggle at times, but I don't know. That game's going to be low owned, like you said. Everyone wants to save everything for later. But I'll have some pieces in that game for sure.
Well, and you just go to history, right? Or just scroll your Twitter, tonight or tomorrow morning. Everybody snooze fest. Who wants to watch the Lions? Would you rather eat dry turkey or watch? It's a massive spot in MMEs to take some chances. It's not going to feel comfortable by any means, but no one felt. Maybe I'm wrong. It was only a 2-game slate last year, but there wasn't anybody thinking the Texans at the Lions was going to score 66 points. And then the Cowboys get blown the doors out by Washington while Kenny's sitting in my house. So that was fun to be around for him. But, it's definitely a day to expect the unexpected. Again, that doesn't mean get cute everywhere, but there are spots where you can just take some chances on a 3-game slate. And, again, your contest selection matters. If you're in a single entry, $100 deal where there's only 1,800 entries, you don't have to get too cute. You can just make 1 or 2 subtle differences and be fine, or just leave a few $100 on the table, and you're probably going to be different than the mass amount of people. But if you're in what is the Million Maker tomorrow? Like 150,000 lineups. You do have to get a little bit different.
I would say to everyone too, if you're doing tournaments, spread out your defenses. Like, it's only 6 defenses to choose from. Make sure you have a piece of every single one. That's like you said last year with the football team. You needed that last. They recovered that fumble for a touchdown, like one of the last plays of the game. You needed that to win anything.
Yep. Yeah. Oh, definitely. I would have. If you're building, I'd even say if you're building 20 lineups or more, I'd have a piece of all 6. You may distinguish who you want more of, but I'd have a piece of them. Necessarily wouldn't be afraid to play some D's in Showdown, depending on the game and who it is, but definitely on the 3-game slate and the 2-game slate. The 2-game slate has some pretty good contests out there as well. I'm gonna jump in it a little bit, but I would definitely I'd keep options open to play all of them. I'll probably have at least 50 in the Millie Maker, and I'll have pieces of all 6 because it's just too unpredictable on a day like this, and I want some shares of all of them. That'll be it for me. We'll be back. I'll be back later on this afternoon with Cup with Gup, wrapping up, power rankings for this week, some betting stuff. And then tonight, you premium members, I'll be around getting things ready. I'll update all my rankings. I'll put my article out. I will do an update in the morning, basically right at 10 o'clock Central Time, 11 Eastern when the inactives are out. And then we'll get going on building. Anything for you before we get out of here?
No, it sounds good. I'll post my, I got a little cheat sheet I'll post on the website too later on. More of like a matchup thing, not like more of a breakdown like yours. But, between those two things, I think we're putting people in a great spot for tomorrow.
Yep, huge Friday. There's a 2-game college football slate tomorrow as well. A 13 and a 14-game college football slate Friday and Saturday. So there'll be some fun turkey, hangover slates. If you got Blitz tomorrow, you can catch it back up with Bobby's info there. I believe his pod, he'll still do the pod, but it'll probably just be for the Saturday slate like always. Should drop Friday. The coin flip will drop Friday, as well as Ryan and I will record the hot route for the main slate on Friday afternoon, or sometime that day. I'll get it out. You'll have all weekend to listen to it. Our winners for the last giveaways we've been doing: Millie Maker tickets for tomorrow's deal, Raven Maniac 1203, at Ultimate Lions, Blake B412, and Storm Scott. Hit me up in the GC Warrior Room, or if you're not a member, over on Twitter, and I will get you your $20 DFS money so you can get into the Millie Maker tomorrow. Reminder, Turkey gets you 30% off. Any package right now includes a risk-free 7-day trial. Hope you guys enjoyed this. Went a little later, but we wanted to get all the information we could and go in depth on it, give you everything you need while you are commuting to your families. Hope everybody has a very happy Thanksgiving and blessed time with your families, and we will talk to you later. Thanks.